everybody wants a silver bullet, right? They're like, hey, if I do this one thing, will it change the trajectory of my business? And, you and I have been in this game for long enough to know that like there is no such thing as a silver bullet. There is execution and degrees of execution of your business process.
Representing Franchise Secrets, Erik Von Horn.
Brian, welcome back to the show.
Yeah, thanks, Erik. It's been a while. I was trying to think, maybe like 2 years, maybe 3. So
it's been a while. One thing that's a proven fact, is the first time I ever heard ChatGPT was from Brian Holmes. Like, you're the first guy that told me about ChatGPT. That's gonna be like somebody
Absolutely.
the first time that they heard about the World Wide Web or something like that. So you're the first guy. I was in Austin. You're like, Erik, this is what I've been working on, like all this AI stuff. And I'm like, what? And now, like, I love it. So you were that guy.
Yeah. It's interesting. I'm always shocked about how long ago that actually was at this point in time, and like all that kind of had to happen for, really even to understand the significance of what ChatGPT was. It's just amazing how far like so many people have made progress on learning how to use these tools and figure out how to apply the tools. Because I think at the point when, ChatGPT really came out, like writing terrible emails was almost just the goal. And now the fact that we're figuring out how to actually leverage these tools in like real business processes and like transform the way businesses are operated with, ChatGPT and other kind of off the shelf AI tools.
Well, I think people are going to want to listen to this entire thing because you're not a software guy. You are now. You're a software guy now, but you weren't a software guy before. I mean, you were a franchise guy like me. We had the Franchise Story podcast together. Right. People should still go listen to that. We had some fun.
Yeah, there's some good episodes. Yeah, absolutely.
And then you started Franchise Ramp, and that was about the same time we started the podcast Franchise Story.
Yep, absolutely.
And you, like, what was the genesis of Franchise Ramp? What is it today? And then I just want people to fully understand your background.
Yeah, well, just, got to start before that, right? So kind of like you, we share a shared background in the fact that we kind of cut our teeth in the Liberty Tax Service world, in franchising. And honestly, I would say most of what I've learned and applied to all of my businesses came from the cycle of rebuilding your business every single year for almost 10 years. And it was a great opportunity. That's how I cut my teeth on business, cut my teeth on franchising. And I really owe a lot to that journey. It definitely wasn't an easy journey. And I think a lot of us, if we were smart, we probably would have been like, oh, maybe franchising isn't 100% the way that I go. But I think once it's in your blood and you kind of figure it out, you're like, that just becomes a part of your identity. So, I spent 10 years building my Liberty Tax Service stores. And then I sold those in 2016 and started my journey with, Club Pilates. It's a Club Pilates franchisee, thanks to Erik. Erik was the one that introduced me to that concept. And, we went off to the races. We opened, three locations in 1 year. It was really early in the Club Pilates journey. I would have to say it wasn't the model that it is today, but it was something that was kind of, speculative, a little bit unproven, but the math kind of worked. In that journey, I went from having 200 seasonal employees down to having like one Club Pilates in pre-sale, one general manager, and 6-month-old twin boys. And I figured out, we went to my first Club Pilates conference, and I realized that it is, it's just a sales play. It's a sales business. And it was very much like the structure that we used to recruit for tax school for Liberty Tax Service. You needed to create awareness of the opportunity, drive people to an intro session, close those people, and then get them to, attend tax school. The same thing is fundamentally how the Club Pilates business model works. And so I hired a marketing agency. They were terrible. I know a lot of people, have fault with their marketing agencies. I kind of joke in fitness and in franchising, the two things that everybody hates is their marketing agency and their CRM, mostly because they just don't know about how bad all the other marketing agencies are and how bad all the other CRMs are, because you just kind of use one, or maybe you've used a handful. So that led me to start down the digital marketing journey, and we kind of went on that journey together, right? We were both trying to learn, how to run Facebook ads, like what is the opportunity to build communities. And so from there, I started on building Franchise Ramp. And today, I think we work with 24 brands, 1,200 locations. It's a really fast growing digital marketing agency. In 2022, I think we were number 49 in the Inc. 500. We just continued to grow like that. I would expect, with my business partners, Pete and Aaron, that the business over the next 2 years will double in size again, and we just continue to serve more and more brands and more franchisees. So
Pause there. Do you ever talk about culture and building a business? Because you have an
yeah,
amazing culture at Franchise
yeah,
Ramp that wasn't by
yeah,
accident. And even
right.
now that you and Pete are further removed from that, the
Hmm.
culture is amazing. So when I think about people that I'm close with, like you, and someone that's building culture, like that's you, Brian, and what you guys have built, and Aaron and Pete at Franchise Ramp. How often do you guys talk about that to the outside?
Yeah, culture for us, like externally as like a marketing strategy, is not something that we really talk about. Culture internally is everything that business is. It only works the way that it works because of the culture. I kind of joke, as I'm more and more separated from that business on a day-to-day basis. I'm like, Franchise Ramp is a little bit of a cult. It is very, very unique people who work there. They're all absolutely A players, and it's an A player culture, and everybody has incredibly high expectations for their work and their coworkers' work. And I think that really comes from the leader. So like the day-to-day leader is my partner Aaron, and Aaron is just an absolute beast and committed to quality and customer service on every single level. And the business is a reflection of him. And that's what is really cool about the business. Is that Aaron's built a great culture, and we celebrate it, and we do awards, and everything in that company is about
Okay, we're going to
maintaining that
do a
culture.
separate podcast with you and Aaron to talk about culture, because it's
Okay,
like
would love
I've
that. Would love
I've
that.
seen it firsthand, and I won't tell
Yeah,
the story
yeah.
here, but like if I'm on a ski lift talking with Aaron and a brand or private equity company, like let me tell you a story about what Franchise Ramp did for a brand that I know well, and then when I'm done with that story, the founders of the franchise or the private equity, they're like, holy cow, I've never seen a company do that, like doing the right
Hmm.
thing times 100. So we will, I don't
Hmm.
have permission to share that story, so I won't share it now because you probably can't
Yeah.
do that to everybody. But like, I just want people to know, like, if you want trustworthy and people that
Hmm.
go above and beyond, that's Franchise Ramp. And I say this all the time. So this is not like, it obviously sounds like a commercial, but
Yeah.
I don't get anything from it.
Mm,
And this is what
sure.
I tell people all the time.
Yeah, I think the best way to understand that it isn't a commercial is that for years we didn't even have salespeople at Franchise Ramp. Like there were no external sales going on. It was just 100% inbound and referrals from the brands that we work with. And that was because our commitment to the brands and to the franchisees and supporting them. A lot of outside agencies come into uh, the franchise industry, and they just don't understand what it is, and they don't understand that your primary role in the agency business in franchising is franchisee support, and that's how you actually help the franchisees. That's how you actually help the system. As you know more than probably anybody, emerging brands like really rely on their partners to support their franchisees and take a lot of that workload off of the internal teams by being a great partner. If you have a bad partner and a small team, that's a recipe for disaster, because who is going to support the franchisees at that point in time? As you grow, as franchise systems grow, they can add more resources. But in the beginning, you're pretty constrained. You maybe only have a couple people in your marketing department, and you really need, a great agency to come and support them and provide a lot of the creativity, the ideas, the strategy, more than just the delivery of like a paid media plan.
I've seen you hold back on growing Franchise Ramp in many ways. You're like, we're not going
Yeah.
into this category. We're not going into that category. And you've been patiently holding back until the time was right. I was even talking to Aaron 2 days ago. I was at Disney World and he answered his phone. So now and the girls were on some ride that I absolutely did not want to be on. So I called Aaron and he was walking somewhere with his EO group. And I started to ask him like, hey, what do you think about this project? He's like, Erik, I think we're going to bring on a hire, but we're probably 2 to 3 months away. I don't want to take on a project that I can't completely deliver 100% on. So it's a no for now, but let's revisit this. And I love that kind of conversation. That's how you have built. Also, well, I can go into a lot of different things with that. Let's switch gears. Let's talk about AI, unless you wanted to wrap that conversation up.
Yeah, I mean, just to like on the saying no part, we say no way more than we say yes to, working like, requests of, customers or requests of brands. And it's the reason that we say no is because if we're going to do something, we're 100% committed to the success of that project. And we need to believe that it's in your best interest and the best interest of your franchisees and something that we can deliver on. If that's not in that wheelhouse, then we're not going to commit to the project just because we're not going to lie. Like, we're just not going to take business for the sake of business. We're going to take business that we know that we can make an impact for the franchisees. At Franchise Ramp, our mission is to help franchisees achieve their entrepreneurial dreams. And that's always our North Star. It's all, and if we don't think something's in alignment with that, we just won't do it. So,
all right, AI front desk. You and I were talking in Austin at some event, and you were getting ready to start that thing. Where was AI back then? When we think about AI, I'm probably not even using that correctly. So AI could mean, well, what's your definition of AI? Let's start there, because it could mean like agents, it could mean automation, it could mean a combination of things. So let's start there so the audience kind of understands what you're talking about when we talk about AI.
Yeah, I have a really good buddy that he says every time he sees AI, he thinks BS. And so I think it's very unfortunate that I named my company BS Front Desk. So I think about that all the time, and he's not wrong, right? There's like so much hype and so much narrative around AI and its ability to change and impact the world. Some of it's going to turn out to be very true, and it's going to change the world in ways that we probably can't anticipate today. But I think what most people are thinking of when they think of AI right now is like the large language models, like ChatGPT and its ability, to execute, and have conversations. So that's what I think most people think of when they think of AI. They're not thinking of a lot of the other things that you can do with machine learning or artificial intelligence. Yeah.
So I was just at the Springboard event talking to some smarter people than I am about AI. I mean, they're deeper into AI than I am. I'm a practical user of a lot of this stuff, like how it can impact me and help me and my business partners and our brands. But I am not at your level or other people's level. So when I'm in groups like larger conferences, I talk to people like you who are smarter than me, and you are talking to people in that same room that I am. They might not know how smart you are, and they are trying to sell you on why their agent or their like artificial intelligence LLM, this software is absolutely amazing, and they will not pull back the layers for you at all until you can ask some intelligent questions, and you're like, oh, that's ChatGPT and a CRM like high level. Like, there's really nothing special about that. Like, that's something that somebody could build and have that type of product, and then it gets better than that, right? So like, explain to the kind of re-explain what I just did. So as a franchisor goes to the IFA and they're getting bombarded by all these AI experts that are selling them their software, like, what should they be looking out for? Like, Brian, drop some truth.
Yeah, I mean, I think we are well past like the, at least in my experience or where my world is, we're well past the like bells and whistles part of AI adoption and it being like fancy and trendy. Like last week I was, a panelist and at the Fitness Technology Summit and kind of talked about practical applications of AI. And I think you shouldn't really go out to buy AI for AI's sake. You should sit down and look at the fundamentals of your business and how well you're executing those fundamentals. And if a solution that helps you execute better is AI enabled, then that's the direction and the thought process to go down. I don't think that there's an actual reason to be like, I need AI. That is the wrong way to do it. And it's not actually how I did it. So my AI journey started in two different places. So the first place was on the franchise ramp journey. And, like I said earlier, franchise ramp was growing insanely fast. And we run a very complex business. Like at any given point or any day, we're managing 2,000 ad accounts. And as we were growing, the solution, I think for a lot of businesses, the solution at that time and even today is we have more work. Let's throw more people at the problem. And if you do really care about your culture, then it's actually quite hard to just add more people. You need to add the right people, because the seventh, eighth, or ninth person that you add within a department can kind of ruin the whole culture and the whole energy of the department if you're not picky. And so, I was a pretty anti, AI or chatbot person in, 2019 through really 2022, because I saw a lot of the tools out there, and they just didn't execute in a way that I thought was good for my business or for my customers. And the problem at that time, so with Franchise Ramp, our problem was scale. How do we make this business more effective and efficient while maintaining our culture with technology? So that started out with just traditional software. It wasn't AI enabled at that point. We needed to build unique tools to manage the large number of ad accounts, make sure that nothing slipped through the cracks. And then that kind of led to an AI journey where, hey, how do we leverage LLMs to write better copy? How do we leverage LLMs to do better creative? Or how do we actually execute our processes better? And at that point, there really wasn't a lot of off-the-shelf tools that we could use. ChatGPT was available. Tools like Jasper.ai was available, but the options were more limited. So kind of just to summarize this, like start with the problem. What problems do you have in your business? Where can you improve your execution? And then how can these tools help you do that? Versus just going and being like, oh, that sounds cool because it's AI.
So if someone's walking through the vendors, or they are at IFA, or they're talking to vendors that they got referred to by one franchisor and referring it to another, and the vendor's like, yeah, I can replace your front desk.
Mm.
And you're like, I don't know if you really can. And what does that really look like? Because I'm hearing Brian talk about what he has with AI front desk, but are we comparing apples to apples to what, this marketing person or this crypto dude or this, whoever he was before is now an AI expert? Like, what is the difference? Like, how can you help that person, Brian? They're looking at AI, like Brian, what he has with AI front desk, to some of these other lesser products, but they're putting it at the same category as you. Like, help that person.
Yeah, there's a lot of slideware out there where it looks really good in a slide deck. It looks really good on the website, but the actual tool may not even exist, or it may not be really in a pilot. I've heard there's plenty of people putting logos on slide decks and websites that aren't really customers and that they can't actually validate. At this point, if you're going to go choose a vendor, you really need to talk to somebody that's an existing customer and get validation from them that the product that they're selling is the product that you need. Trusting the sales process or the salespeople to tell you what is real and what's not is not something that you can do, especially when it's customer facing. Like if you're trying to figure out a solution that's getting deployed to your customers, that's a high risk deployment. If you get that wrong, you can be on the news. You could have a LLM or an AI agent that's having really inappropriate or wrong conversations with your customers or your prospects. And so you want to make sure that they've either actually deployed the solution that they're selling to you, or are transparent with you and say, hey, we haven't actually deployed that yet. We would like you to be a pilot customer of ours, and let's build this together. Now, if you're going to do a build together program, then you should know that you're in that pilot. You're not actually buying a proven project or process, and you should pay the appropriate amount to be part of that pilot. Now, it could depend on the complexity of the solution you want. If you want a solution that's just truly unique to you and your business model, that's going to be expensive. You're going to need to pay a lot to get a vendor to custom build something for you. If you want something that's applicable and like fairly off the shelf for you and everybody else in your industry, then it can be cost effective. Or kind of like a third option is if the companies that you're working with have raised like significant amounts of venture capital, you're inherently getting a discount on the product because they're selling it to you at a subsidized price.
Attention, franchisors and franchisees. There are two really important resources that I want to share with you that will help you avoid costly mistakes and increase your enterprise value. The first is our free Facebook group. It's a community that has over 4,000 franchisees and franchisors in it. When somebody asks a question, they get honest and authentic answers from multiple perspectives. You can join the group for free over at franchisesecrets.com/Facebook. The second resource I want to share with you is if you're a franchisee and you want to be around a community of successful Zs and other brands and in other industries, this is why I created the Franchisee Mastermind. If you want access to the best single and multi-unit owners to know what they're doing, or if you want to be around other multi-brand owners, then you'll want to check out my Franchisee Mastermind. The reason why people join is they want access to my Rolodex, my connections, to each other. They want a shortcut success, both short-term and long-term. Links will be in the show notes or at scalablefranchise.com.
All right, let's go into what is AI front desk. Maybe you talk about the features, maybe you talk about the benefits or the outcome of it, however you want to go so that the listeners kind of understand what it is and also like what it isn't.
Yeah, let's start with the problem, right? So the problem I was selling with,
Wait, even before that, Brian, I get in trouble for interrupting my guests, but I know you and I know like guests have probably heard. He's like, let's start with the problem. Let's start with the problem. Talk about why you start with the problem first, because this is something that is ingrained in the culture at Franchise Ramp. So give a little lesson on starting with the problem and then go into the problem.
Yeah, I mean, the reason I start with the problem is because I've been obsessed with execution and business execution for almost the last 20 years, right? Like, how do I run my businesses more effectively, more efficiently, and consistently, right? And so, the problem that I wanted to start with and why you start with the problem is because there's plenty of, if you ask a lot of executives or C-level people what they want from AI, they're going to tell you a better dashboard or better like data. And you're like, okay, that's interesting that is what you want. And I actually a little bit struggle with that because I'm like, all right, if you have the information, what are you going to do with the information? And in franchising, it's even more complicated. So like, let's say that you are the CTO, CIO, or COO of a franchise organization and you want a better dashboard. When you get the insight that from that dashboard that says like, hey, X problem exists in Y location or in all of our locations, the process you have to go through is, if you're a CTO, you've got to convince the CEO and COO that is a problem. From there, you got to talk to, if it's a large organization, you got to talk to like the head of the brand or the president of the brand. They need to communicate that to their, salespeople or marketing people that actually interact with the franchisees. Then the franchisee has to convince that to the general manager. Then the general manager has to convince it to the staff person. And then the staff person has to like actually deliver that change in process to the front desk staff person. And I'm like, that it's just never going to work. You're never going to be able to take that insight generated at the executive level and make it applicable to the, the location level. And for a while, I was trying to figure out like, why is that what people want is like better dashboards? And it's because that's their job, right? They don't actually do the front desk staff job. They're not actually interacting with the customers. So they're looking for kind of stuff to help them have better meetings. And you're like, oh, that's not really effective. Like that's not actually,
we hate meetings.
I hate meetings. I would rather skip to the execution piece. Right. And so, just start with the right problem. And if the right problem is like, I need better dashboards, then you're probably not going to drive ROI through the location because you have to go through all of those different processes. And even if it's at the, franchisee level, yes, it's great that you still have to go through franchisee to general manager, to staff, to customer. And that's hard. If we could do that, If we could execute that process, we wouldn't need AI at all, right? Because for the most part, we know what's wrong with our businesses and why they're not working as well as they could. We're just not doing what we need to. We're not firing the person that needs to be firing. We're not replacing them with a higher quality person. We're not changing marketing agencies. We're not, we're just not doing what we need to do. So if the answer is better reporting, it's often going to end up in a failed deployment.
Do you have a GPT that you guys use to start with a problem and then do an MVP?
Yeah, I have lots of GPTs for lots of different use cases, and I think everybody like on our franchise ramp team and my AI front desk team has numerous ones that they've built for specific use cases. Like for me, one of the best GPTs that I have is a business coach for me. I've tried to hire business coaches over the years. I'm really hard to coach. And so I feel bad for any of the business coaches that I've hired. But I actually have, a great relationship with my executive business coach and my GPT because it knows a lot about me. It's got all my personality tests. It really understands the businesses that we're trying to build, the business goals that we have. And then it can really help me in like the ideation and thought process for, making future and current decisions.
All right. You are on the podcast now. Everybody's listening. Are you going to come into my masterminds and talk about how you built that and we could do it together?
Oh, yeah.
Because if that's the best one for you, I've been wanting to do that with them. So let's do that together.
Yeah, would love to. Would love to. Yeah, and the AI front desk team actually has like a leadership training project that we're doing. So we'll come in and do AI adoption leadership training for organizations to help them kind of go through the journey and the process that we went through with Franchise Ramp when we first discovered like, hey, these tools are going to have a meaningful impact. We need to adopt and integrate them into our business thoroughly. And we do a similar process for companies now with AI front desk.
Perfect. Yeah. All right. So go back to AI front desk. So the problem, you identified the problem.
Yeah. Yeah. So the problem that we had with AI front desk is the kind of universal problem that every marketing agency and every business has. So we are generating a large number of leads for the locations that we work with, and they're having a hard time converting those leads into revenue, memberships, next steps, bookings. And so over the years, we tried to solve that problem a couple different ways. So I built a call center in Tijuana with some friends at one point in time, to try and solve that problem. And I could get the price right. I just couldn't get the quality right for, executing on a lead follow-up process. Coming out of COVID, we actually built a US based call center and I could get the quality right. I just couldn't get the price right. And so the price was too expensive for everybody to kind of deploy. And then coming out of COVID, like the biggest problem we had was it was really hard to hire, train, and retain front desk staff. And it was, I've had at least close to 1,000 employees in, California as a, almost 20-year California employer. And I was just running into problems that were really frustrating from a retention perspective. We were hiring staff and they would like get hired and then no show on us, or they would just like quit without notice. And I was having a really hard time, because of that, I was having a hard time retaining GMs because they were having to do a ton of the work and they weren't getting the support from kind of the staff people. And, the final straw was like, we had a front desk staff person that on their first day, they like quit because they didn't like the way that the new garbage bags smelled. And I was like, this is insane. I can't actually build a business based on, the staff that I'm able to hire today. And so we built a tool that logs into our customer CRM, identifies when a new prospect comes into that system, and then does all the conversations back and forth with that prospect with the goal of driving them to their first visit or, an intro session in Club Pilates. And that was before AI agents was a thing, right? Like that wasn't a terminology. I was just looking at it from kind of first principles and saying, what does our staff do? Can I use a technology solution to do the same thing at a more consistent rate? And so can I take my, average speed the lead from 13 hours down to 5 minutes? And can I do that with technology? And can I go from 70, 80% of the execution of our sales process to 100% of the execution of our sales process? That was really the question and the problem that I started with.
Explain AI agents, because people hear that all kinds of, and there's probably not a standard definition of that. Maybe there is, I just don't know it, but explain what an AI agent is to you and what others might call an AI agent.
Yeah, the way I think of AI agents is it's software that executes business processes. And so without the support of a human. So that's how I think of AI agents.
So that could be it say that one more time.
Yeah, it's software that executes a business process without the need of a human in the process.
So the process, and without the need of a human, what humans can do is make decisions, not just yes
Yep.
or no, but make decisions. So is that process a yes or a no, or is that process able to make more like a human type decision?
Yeah, I think it's the ability to apply logic to the process. And so like within, you have kind of well, is this automation versus what's the difference between automation and an AI agent? Automation is like a one-sided triggered task, right? So lead comes in, triggers message to be sent to prospect, right? Well, the problem with that and the difference between an agent and automation is when you send out that SMS message to a new prospect that is automated, you are still dependent on a human to respond if the prospect responds to the message. The difference between what agents do in our ecosystem is they send out the message, then they're able to answer a wide range of potential questions or challenges the person has in executing on the process, and then actually take the task of like booking them into an intro or whatever is the job of that AI agent. So like in our example, we have, lead booking agents. They're just focused on speed the lead and booking and sales cadence execution. That's their job. So they have a goal of booking, a prospect into an intro. And then we have rebooking agents. Their job is very simple. It's just if somebody needs to reschedule, help them reschedule. And there's enough of a difference between those two things. It's not one agent that does it. It's two different agents that do different parts of the task.
So are all these agents responding to incoming messages or incoming leads, or is there also an outbound component to the agents?
Yeah, they're actually reaching out to an agent, a prospect when they enter into the system. They're not, prospecting like, yeah, they're following
I
up on
mean,
people who
let's say
come
a
in.
customer, a customer is on, we haven't seen a customer in 2 months, and most
Okay.
of the time they come every
hmm
month. Do they reach
hmm
out to that database, understand like, okay, they haven't been here for 2 months, time to reach out to get them rebooked or booking
Yeah.
again?
Yeah, absolutely. So that would be a customer service style agent. So we kind of break our agents down into like two processes, right? Like is the person that they're interacting with a prospect, so not yet a customer, versus somebody who is a customer. So like what are within the fitness industry, what are the challenges of a customer? There's two really, really important component pieces. One is the person being successfully onboarded to become a long-standing member? And then the other one is how are we identifying people who are likely to churn and preventing them from taking the actions that contribute to churning sooner? So both of those are agents would proactively reach out to them to help them, next step. So it might be as simple as like booking a next session, helping them find the right class for them, answering questions that they have and kind of supporting them. So yes, they're proactive.
So what are the different ways that do you interact with any of those agents? Is it texting, instant messenger, email, or voice?
We primarily focus on SMS, mostly because it's the most responded to and effective process right now is SMS. We get asked all the time about voice agents, and historically, I've been a little bit slow to adopt, and build AI agents for voice because when I look at my metrics and my answer rates for following up with customers and prospects, I don't see a very high answer rate from a like unknown number. And so, but I actually do think voice is very important from a customer service perspective. And so we are building a solution that is like a phone answering solution that integrates and interacts with our CRM system to manage customer service related issues and scheduling for prospects. But I'm not to a point where I want to build a outbound calling agent.
So what have you seen change in the last 5 years or whatever time frame you want to go with, but from primarily customers inbound through voice or inbound through text or instant message or email or something like that? Like, where have you seen the inbound leads coming from, and how has that changed?
Yeah, I mean, so inbound leads still for like us come primarily through paid media, driving actual prospects, website traffic, which is really just a byproduct in most cases of your paid media strategy, or referrals from customers, or just, all the traditional things. As far as communication channels, in 2017, when we launched our first location, we were getting really high answer rates from phone calls. And so actually having a lot of calls with with good conversations and getting people to show up through phone calls, I think a lot has changed there. Now my phone, you can't even call me. So like if your phone number is not in my phone book, it is impossible for you to get my phone to ring. And so I think a lot of people have that set up on their phones now. And so, the best you can do with phone call is leave me a voicemail. And if anybody calls Erik, you'll find out Erik doesn't actually listen to his voicemails. So like, there's no point of leaving Erik a voicemail. And so, and I think I'm generally the same. Like, if you send me an SMS message, I will read it. But if you call and leave me a voicemail, I probably will just delete it.
So times are changing, and just in general, trying to get an email is easier than getting a cell phone number. So like,
Yeah.
the holy grail is a cell phone number, right?
Right.
Is that, how do you get that? Go ahead.
Yeah. So there's the question, how do you get people to give you their phone number? Yeah, I think step one is you have to have a compelling offer that they want, right? So, and if they don't, it doesn't really matter that you got their phone number. So if they're not actually interested in your product or service, then it doesn't matter that you got their phone number, because it's going to take you tons of effort, energy, follow-up to try to get them to kind of take the next step in your journey, which is important. We all need a certain combination of hot prospects, kind of medium level interested prospects, and maybe less on the cold side, because there's a lot of effort required in like driving them through the funnel. So, it's all, from a marketing perspective, we're going to a much more multi-channel world, right? So when we started Franchise Ramp, you could reliably build a business on just Facebook ads alone, right? And even in such a short period of time, we went from running great Facebook ads to having to run Facebook and Instagram ads, which is kind of wild, right? To think that like there was a period of time where people only read Facebook and didn't run Instagram, versus it just being like meta based ads. Then it went to like, well, you got to get your Google stuff figured out. And so you got to run multi-channel. The challenge with multi-channel is you lose attribution, right? So you don't necessarily know where did the prospect really come from, because you're multi-channel. Today, we're in a world where you need to go Meta, Google, TikTok, CCTV. Like you have to do it all, and you have to be kind of on every platform all the time, driving awareness. And we've kind of went from a world where you could rely heavily on call to action or direct action advertising, versus today, your brand matters, right? So if you've spent the last 8 years buying ads from Glassdoor, and that was your marketing strategy, you built Glassdoor's brand. You didn't build your brand. And everybody loves that, because they got that reliable, hey, this is a prospect they want to buy. But what you missed out on was, 10 years of letting people know that you exist in the market for the people who are going to buy in the future.
All right. Let's talk about the front desk in the different brands that Franchise Ramp works with, or just what you see out there. So pick whatever lane you want to go. How many have phones that are actually answered by a live person? How many do not do that anymore?
Yeah. I think for the most part, everybody has a phone in the locations that is, in theory, answered by a live person. Now, the other day, we were looking at, a large franchisee with almost 30 locations, and he had 8,000 inbound phone calls. And of those, 5,000 went unanswered. And so even if the phone is in the location, is it actually being answered by your 19 to 23-year-old front desk staff? And I think the shocking thing that we find is if you go into a lot of locations, they actually have the ringers turned off on the phones. And so they're not actually ringing and they're not being answered. And that's why it's kind of driven me to like, all right, hey, we really do need a inbound voice answering solution for the locations that integrates with our CRM or our membership management platform so that we know that these calls are coming in. The other thing, it's really wild, and I think, I've believed this for a long time and we're finding it to be true, is if you are relying on your front desk staff to make outbound phone calls and you're using your CRM to track whether or not they're making those phone calls, if anybody's going to spend, 30 minutes looking into this, you'll find that there is no reality in your CRM versus the calls that are actually being made. Nobody makes 20 phone calls in 20 minutes and doesn't talk to anybody and marks them all not interested. And you're going to find that that's what your, current front desk staff is doing. The reason that they're doing that is because they don't even talk to their friends on the phone. And so like why would your 23-year-old call your 50-year-old customer and want to have an awkward conversation with them when they can't even call their mom? They're just text messaging them. And I'm an older millennial, but I'm an introvert. And so I probably move more towards, these kind of antisocial behaviors. But a lot of our younger staff, like they don't do those types of conversations. And so, the reality of your outbound phone calls is not good.
How many franchise brands don't have a phone in their location?
I don't know. I mean, I remember when that was the Cycle Bar's original business model, right? Is that they wouldn't have a phone. And that was, 10 years ago. And like, that was probably a very innovative idea at that time. I think it was a little bit early, but I think we're getting closer to where, you could have, I don't love 100% AI solutions. Like I'm not that way. I really believe that you need to have the ability to escalate, certain, questions or concerns that customers have. I mean, if you're paying a lot of attention to the media right now in the technology space, you're hearing more and more about like AI projects that have failed. MIT came out with a study that said 95% of the pilots fail. And a lot of the reason that the pilots fail is because it's like a technology person trying to build a solution based on what the technology is capable of versus a business person trying to outline a business problem and then solve that business problem. But you need the ability to have humans be involved. Like, AI front desk is not a eliminator of front desk staff. It's a force multiplier of your existing team. And so that's, you need to have people who can support and provide customer service for your locations at some level.
So if you are a franchisee and you have a choice of putting your marketing material out there, whether it's paid or it's organic social or it's flyers, old school band, whatever it is, are you having the call to action texting or are you having the call to action phone call? Like or is it fill out a form and does that really go to texting, email, or phone call?
Yeah, I think you need to hit all channels, right? So if you're trying to collect somebody's contact information, everybody wants a silver bullet, right? They're like, hey, if I do this one thing, will it change the trajectory of my business? And, you and I have been in this game for long enough to know that like, there is no such thing as a silver bullet. There is execution and degrees of execution of your business process. And so you should ask for name, phone number, email address, and you should use all of those channels to outreach to your prospects because you're going to pick up some percentage through email, which I think is crazy because if you think calling me is hard, try emailing me. I've got so many spam filters that are built through that. It's very hard to hit my inbox today. And I'm not as good as I should be at like reviewing all of my filters to make sure that I didn't miss something that I wanted to see. So, but you need to hit all the channels. You need to kind of be everywhere that you can be from a marketing budget perspective, and you need to collect all of the information and outreach with every channel that's available to you. And I know that that's hard, but business is really hard. And so you have to be good at executing, complexity, and your team does. And that's where, tools like AI Front Desk are really valuable because we execute 100% of like one process. And so you know that that's being done. It's being done at a high level. Your staff is only involved when there's an escalation or a need for a human to be in the loop. But it's not hard to manage. You don't manage it at all. We just execute for you.
I'll kind of echo what you said. Basically, you need to know who your customer is and how they want. You have to give them an opportunity to engage with you the way that they want to engage. If you have an older customer and maybe like it's senior care, like you're dealing with, that's
Yeah.
like, that's not like signing up for a membership. That's talking about
Hmm.
somebody that's about ready to put their parents in care of somebody. They probably want to talk
Right.
to somebody, or sooner than later talk to somebody. I remember early
Yeah.
on when I was about 10 years ago, when I was doing franchise consulting, I hate talking to people, like especially with people that weren't that serious. And so I just started to, ask them how they wanted to have a conversation with me. And a lot of them, it was texting until we actually got on the phone and had a
Yep.
deeper conversation. So I think brands out there, if you're not sure, like, what you should do, text, instant message, or phone call, just survey your customers, see how they prefer, or give them the option and start to track that so you can understand the percentage that have phone calls or whatever it is. And then I would also kind of just audit when the phone calls are there. That way you have somebody there that can answer the phone calls. Maybe it's after work, maybe it's in the middle of the day or over lunchtime. But just kind of audit your process and see when you can have better conversations with these leads that are coming in. Any thoughts, Brian?
Yeah, I mean, I think, if the real question is like, what's the one, it's got to be SMS. Like that's going to be your best way to get a hold of people and communicate with them now. And I think yes, you can't sell senior care via SMS. That's going to be very challenging, and I don't think that that's going to work for you. But what likely will work is SMS to appointment, right? With the goal of like getting on their schedule, getting on their calendar, and then getting them to show up to, an in-person conversation. And then so if I was doing senior care and if it's in person, then you probably need to go there, or you need to do a Zoom, or if you have a facility, how do you get them to the facility for that, more in-depth one-on-one conversation? You look at the Club Pilates process, we use SMS with the goal of getting them to show in person to a session for a conversation with a human. Now we still do use AI agents to do the sales follow up, and I think that that's because the consumer has changed how they want to buy. We're so used to buying directly now without having to interact with a salesperson. It's kind of an unnecessary barrier to purchase today, to be like, hey, you have to have a conversation with X salesperson before you buy. That's not, if you do that to me, I'm not buying. Like, just tell me about it and then send me the link and I'll buy it if I want it. And so that's I think a lot more people are that way.
All right. I want to hear from Brian, who's got a big head and just going to go brag. I need you to brag right now. Like, what are the results that you've seen from AI front desk compared to what it was before, and maybe how that's evolved and how it's gotten better?
Yeah, it's been a journey, right? So I said, initially we wanted to figure out if we could make it work and if the conversation quality was as good as, what my human staff could do. We achieved that. So the conversations that we're able to have with the AI agents and the people is significantly better than the human staff. And then we figured out how to scale it. And so, initially it was just way too expensive for an individual brand or, an individual location to purchase. And so we solved that. So we built a platform to train, test, integrate, and monitor AI agents deployed in existing technology stacks. And then we scaled that. And so we went from a single agent that does speed to lead to agents that touch every single part of like the customer journey. And we've done a lot of times. So, as of this week, we've completed 1.1 million sales tasks for the locations that we work with. We've worked over 400,000 leads for those locations. We've booked over 24,000 individual appointments for them and saved them 65,000 hours. And so that's, what I think is interesting about the hours metric is that, we save the locations we work with a little over 1,000 hours a week right now. And that's like 65,000 hours is like 31 full-time equivalent years. And so we're doing a lot of work and taking a lot of work off the locations which is nice, because that was something that staff was doing before, but how does it actually drive revenue? So every step that we're involved in the process, we're improving the execution or the outcome by 20 to 30%. So we're increasing the number of people that go from prospect to booking. We're increasing the percentage that go from booking to show, from show to purchase, and now we're really working on the onboarding piece, which is a little bit more subjective and harder to get kind of like a strong number around, and churn prevention and reactivations. So we're seeing a meaningful impact while actually decreasing labor cost. And so in my locations, I've saved a little over $1,000 a month in general manager and front desk staff, because they're not having to work near as much, because a lot of the kind of minutia tasks that they were doing have been taken off of their plate.
So you said that how you say no a lot. At Front
Mhm.
Street, we say no a lot, and people listening, they're probably like, yeah, right. That's what everybody says. And so I'm like,
Yeah.
you're right. Everybody does say that, but
Yeah.
if you know, you know. And Brian, I remember going to him like, can we use AI front desk? Let's do it over here. Can we use franchise ramp over in this franchise? You're like, no, we're not doing that category right now. Like, we're not best in
Mhm.
class at that category. Maybe eventually, and I think you guys are moving towards that in some different industries, which is I'm very happy
Mhm.
about. But you say no a lot, and you've said no to me so many times. So who is AI front desk good for today?
Mhm.
And like, how do you see the future of that? Like, who can you say yes to maybe in a year or two or three?
Yeah, right now we're really focused on, the fitness and wellness industry. Because just like you said, like if we're going to do something, we're going to be world class at it. And, I think what's going to get a lot of people in trouble is thinking that, like, the first question I had from our CRM membership management platform was, can you build this for everybody? I'm like, no, I can't, because it's easy to build a solution. And I think all of us who are serious about AI now, like, know that, like, you can build out a workflow relatively quickly, and fairly easily and very inexpensively. But it's really hard to go from 70% good, so like the tool actually works, to 99.99% good, which is the tool works really, really well and that it doesn't have a negative impact on the customer experience. And so we're really focused on delivering 99.99%. For the fitness and wellness industry. Over time, we'll, over the next couple of years, we'll expand into, other brands and other industries and provide that, same level of support.
Do you work with franchisees? Does it have to be the brand, work at the brand level? Can it be at the franchisee level? How big does a franchisee have to be to make it worth it?
Yeah, I mean, I focus on franchise or level very specifically, kind of in the same way that Franchise Ramp does, is because an individual franchisee, the cost to do it at a 99.99% level is just too high. Where a large franchisor, that's the benefit of franchising, right? Like, we can take the cost and spread it across the system. So an individual franchisee can pay $300 to $500 a month for a great solution, but the overall system is paying really the burden of the cost to deliver. That's why franchising works. So really, we're focused on 50 to 500 location franchisors, and delivering a product for them right now, because they can bury the burden of the cost. As it gets less expensive, we'll be able to go to, the ultimate goal is to be able to do it for anybody. But you kind of have to start where the economics work.
So is it membership based? Like, is let me go a different direction. So you just burst a lot of bubbles right now. Like, oh,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can't do that.
Yeah.
What does the franchisee or the franchisor do now if they're at 25 units, or they're a franchisee with a brand that's like, we're not doing that? Like, talk about how, like, what can they do besides just texting themselves or using
Mhm.
SMS? Like, what advice would you give that person, or what would you do if you were in their shoes?
Yeah, I mean, we're working through that, right? So, there's custom built solutions like at front desk, but then there's a lot of off the shelf solutions that are available out there, and every week I think there's more of them. And so I think if you are, a smaller operator, the step one is like get educated about what the solutions are out there now. Maybe it's something as like high level is a great off the shelf solution that you can build for yourself or have somebody else build for you. There's a lot of stuff like that. As time goes, I think we're going to focus on education. So AI Front Desk does, like I said, an education program. Maybe we need to make that available to the Franchise Secrets group and just start with educating the franchisee, the franchisor, the leadership team. And, there's so much value in just using a pro ChatGPT account and getting all of your organization to start using it. From there, you might find that you can build a lot of this stuff yourself as the technology improves.
So high level, for those of you that don't know, it's like a CRM, it's like a HubSpot or Active Campaign or something like that, but they have a lot of automation built into it. And I think they're always reinvesting in AI technology and whatnot.
Yep.
Is that like, how would you describe high level?
Yeah, I think that's a great way, to describe it. And it's a great platform and a good place to start if you're going to, want to build something yourself.
All right. What else? What other advice do you have out there? Like, where can they learn? You're not teaching any of this stuff yourself like through newsletters or like,
yeah, we
you're
are going to build it.
You're not a guru, Brian. Maybe you need to get to guru status.
I know. I never do the guru thing very well. I think it's just ultimately just too private of a person. So, we're going to launch a newsletter to provide education around this. We're going to do more system-wide or kind of free to attend webinars. The best way to like jump into that, and I'll add you to our newsletter list, is just send me an email, brian@franchiseramp.com, brian@aifrontdesk.com, and I'll get you signed up for our newsletter, and we'll add you to any events that we're going to be doing in the future.
Good. I didn't even I'm having to drag this out of you.
I know. I'm not a good salesperson. Not a good salesperson.
You're not.
Yeah.
All right. We're gonna wrap it up. Any last bits of like AI? Just give me something, Brian, that like you.
I mean, I think
give me
step one
something
is
bad. Give me something bad. Give me something controversial.
Yeah. No.
I mean, whatever you want.
Yeah, like step one, just, get excited about it. Spend, a lot of your time learning how to use it. Like that's what this journey was for me, is like I use AI or ChatGPT or all the different platforms on like almost a daily basis to help me execute my job better. If you start from that place, you're going to be successful at figuring out ways to leverage it in your business. If you're just like, oh, I'm going to assign this project to my staff and they're going to figure it out, they are not going to figure it out. That's not actually how, you might have that work, but it's such a low probability. So jump in, get engaged, learn yourself, and, kind of take control of your AI journey.
There's two things that I would say. Get better at prompting, like asking the right question. Yeah. Super basic, get better at prompting. I have a list of prompts, but better than that is create some custom GPTs. And it's easy to do. It's super easy to do. You and I will do a training for the masterminds on that. And I've already done one training on it, but I think it's good to have that board of advisors. And I use that board of advisors often. And I have it to where I put something, I'm asking a question, but it'll be like, how do you want me to behave? Do you want me to be, and that breaks it down from an offer, marketing, operations, enterprise value, like depends who you have in there. Is it Richard Branson or is it Peter Thiel or who is that? So that is my next piece of advice, like learn how to create a custom GPT. Is that what you do, Brian?
That's great. Yeah. I just build custom GPTs based on what it is that I'm trying to use them for. And so if it's an executive coach for me or business strategist for the business, just build things that are purpose. That's where I think a lot of people kind of get off, is thinking that whatever you build is for everything. Give it a very specific job that you want it to help you on, and the information it needs to have the context to help you.
I have separate GPTs for LinkedIn, Facebook, X to create content. I have separate GPTs for each of them. And then I have separate GPTs on my strategy for each of them. So that was a really good advice. All right, we're going to wrap it up. Yep. Thanks, my man.
Erik. Yeah, see ya. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Franchise Secrets podcast. Links to everything can be found over at franchisesecrets.com. And if you want my help with anything from starting your own franchise to growing your current franchise business, please visit scalablefranchise.com.